Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host, your friend, your coach of the Leads Without podcast. Today, I have another great friend, great guest for you, my new good friend, Chanin from Minnesota, from tropical Minnesota. Still snowing there, I guess. We still have snow here that just melted, it's melting right now. But we connected through my favorite community in the world, the Serving Circle, and we had a wonderful conversation last week. And wow, it was a beautiful conversation because not only Shannon is very easy to talk to, very fun, very friendly, but also she has a beautiful mission and beautiful heart. So we had a beautiful hearted conversation that I knew from the get go that I needed to bring her on the podcast to share that beautiful story, beautiful message and gift to the world. So that's what you're going to do today. A little bit about her. For the past 4.5 years, she's been in intensive personal development, spiritual awakening, and all that good stuff. Her background is more into, she has a extensive background in accounting. I love the name of her business, her company, The Light Vessel. Says it all about who she is and what she stands for. And she's all about helping people learn to love themselves and share it unconditionally, which I really love. She's like me. She's a podcaster, which I always love talking to podcasters because podcasting changed my life, blessed my life in countless ways. So it's always good to talking with someone else that is understood and understand and is leveraging the power of podcast. So that's really happy to hear that. And also, just like me, she's already a published author. Our book, multi-authored book, got launched in December of last year. Mine is going to launch next Friday, April 1st. So that's exciting. So lots that we can cover about and talk. And really what really, stands out about her is her mission. She's in a mission to help 1 million people overcome their trauma drama. And that's really wonderful. On her podcast, she told me a little bit that she invites women share the stories of trauma, especially sexual traumas, which is a touchy subject. So there's a lot we will cover and unpack in this podcast. This will be a fun one. So get ready to have fun. Without any further ado, Chanin, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Payman. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. You can sing the rest, la 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 la.
We don't want to do that.
All right. See, this is beautiful. This is what I meant when I said that she's really easy to talk to because we can have fun. We can be kids. We can let the inner child in us shine without any judgment or whatever. So awesome. So as I told you just before going live, the types of conversation I like to have is to look under the hood, so to speak, to see what's in your heart and have a heart-to-heart conversation. Are you ready?
I am ready.
To rock and roll. All right.
Roll, baby.
All right. So for people, we got to talk about your business and all the beautiful impact you're having in the world later on. But for people who don't know you, as a person and as a human being, who's Chanin?
Oh, my. I'm here to change the world. And this, and it's interesting. The past several days on my Facebook profile, I'm doing this healing process, and it's an inner child one, partly on behalf of myself and my ancestry and my family. And so I've 3 days now, I've posted a picture of myself at a certain age, and then who I was at that age. And it's interesting. It's been interesting. It's been cathartic. And to see, who I was at, 4 and then 11, and then at the ages of 16 and 17, and today I'll do my 20s. I've experienced a boatload of trauma in my life. And, it's really been the past several years where I have discovered how much it impacted me. I suffered from, good grief, depression for 40 years, undiagnosed, because 40 years ago, who knew what depression was? It was a very different thing than it is nowadays. And so it's just like I get overcome with emotion when I think about who I am today, Payman, compared to who I was 4 years ago. I never could have imagined 4 years ago that I would be who I am today, sitting here talking on a podcast. It's just it overwhelms me with gratitude because I want everyone to have the transformation I've had.
Beautiful. Love that. Absolutely love that. A lot we can cover in, but when we were talking, a few thoughts came to mind, but the most powerful that I want to share with you is that you said that you've been posting pictures of you at different ages. And you know what idea I got when I was listening to that? That would be an amazing book. Each chapter a
Yeah.
different part of your life. So you know what to do now. Being already a
Yep.
published author, that's all I'm gonna say. Just
Yep.
planting the seed in your mind.
It was already there. You just
All right.
splashed some water on it.
Oh yes, oh yes. Let's let it fertilize. So
Yeah.
beautiful. Now, I'm gonna ask you now a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you.
Oh,
Ready?
no. I'm ready.
All right. What makes you happy as a person?
It bringing joy to other people. Really, that is what makes me happy, is bringing joy to others.
Beautiful. Now, what makes you smile?
Hmm. My grandkids, my kids,
Oh,
seeing all of them. My husband and I have 5 kids between us. My oldest is turning 30 in a few weeks. I don't know how that happened because I'm still 29. There's just the math just not working there.
wow.
But yeah, seeing them all thriving, it's pretty rare for a family with 5 kids to have them all thriving and doing well and there not be some drama. So we are so blessed.
Absolutely.
And we have 3 beautiful granddaughters, and that
Wow.
makes me smile.
Absolutely. That's one of the best ways to smile indeed. Now, let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches higher. What makes your soul come alive in a good way?
You experienced that when we talked before, and
Mhm.
it's really about I can feel it building up even. It's helping women in particular, like you mentioned, with sexual trauma and overcoming the impact of that. Because while I certainly had an idea of how it impacted me a few years ago, it wasn't until I wrote the chapter for this book right here, Mystics Revealed.
Wow.
It wasn't until I wrote that chapter, and I had 3 months to write it, and I wrote it the day before it was due because
As
I
always
needed.
happens, the last day.
Well, I am a procrastinator by nature, but I needed to be who I was in that moment to write it.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
wasn't until I wrote that I truly understood how it had impacted my life. And that is what lights me up, is that freedom that I got from writing that. And like, I said, all the work that I have done, and to be able to help other women go through that process and have the freedom that I do now, that lights me up big time.
Love that. Love that. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
Oh gosh. It's the sexual trauma, man. It's not only that, it's, for me, it is, and this is another part of my mission. It's like the part, 2.1 is the societal conditioning,
Mhm.
and around what it means to be a man and a woman, or a girl and a boy, and how that just screws up our lives and suppresses us and causes depression and anxiety and all kinds of physical symptoms and such, because people don't feel free to be who they are. Boys are supposed to play with Legos and army men and wear blue, and girls are supposed to wear frilly dresses and play with dolls. Well, maybe the girls want to play with
Sure.
Matchbox cars, like my daughter,
Yeah.
and so that kind of stuff really ticks me off. And the media, and advertising, and forcing on us what women especially are supposed to look like to be wanted and sexual and sensual and all those things. You have to have this image. That sort of stuff pisses me off.
Oh, I agree. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Now, what scares you?
Oh wow, what scares me?
Other than spiders.
Yes, spiders for sure. um, all right, let me listen to my heart here. What scares me? It's all of the people who don't find that freedom, who don't learn to love themselves,
Mhm.
and in particular, take their lives. Another huge part of my mission is also to help veterans. My son is in the Army. My dad was a Marine, and the suicide rates are astronomical amongst them in particular. And it's because they haven't learned to love themselves. It all comes down to that. And that scares me, and makes me sad, that there are all these people out there, wounded people out there who aren't getting help.
Absolutely. It's very tragic the way our veterans are being treated. Same thing in Canada and all over the place. I mean, we owe a lot to these men and women that risked their lives. A lot of them get injured. A lot of them paid with the ultimate price, their lives. And we need to acknowledge and respect and pay tribute to these people, because without their sacrifices, we wouldn't be enjoying the freedoms we're enjoying now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I salute your son and your husband for that, because we need those kind of men, brave men and women in the world. So please pass my salutations to them, because that's amazing.
Oh, it's my dad, not my
Oh,
husband.
your dad. Sorry, your dad. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Now, what is your number one personal superpower?
It's my ability to, this is what I've been told. It's my heart. It's my ability to help people feel peaceful and calm and loved and not judged is a huge part. I mean, I'm still human and I have my moments, but but like my morning prayer is to embody and share as much divine love as possible with people. And every word, every thought, every action, and every moment is coming from love. And I feel like that's my superpower, is my willingness to do that.
Love that. That's powerful.
Thank you.
Now, you like traveling, right?
I love traveling.
All right. Now, what was your very first trip?
Oh, wow. My parents loved to travel as well. I wonder where they took me the first time. I mean, my first trip, really, my dad was in the Marines. And so we lived out, I was born in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And so my first major trip that I am aware of was when we moved to Indiana.
Wow.
Now, as far as vacations that go, I don't remember. The first one that I remember was probably to my grandparents' cabin, which was up in Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
That'd be the first one I remember. But I know there were others that I just don't remember.
Awesome.
Oh, you know what? I was just going through my mom's pictures, and it probably was a trip to Florida, because I was really little, and I have a vague recollection of it when I was like 4, maybe.
Florida is always exciting. I know. Yes. Those palm trees, they have a magnetic effect, the sun, the beach, everything, the smile. Awesome. Now, let me take you down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you're a young girl growing up. When we're kids, people around us, family, relatives, teachers, friends, always ask us, so Chanin, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer back then as a young girl?
Honestly, don't remember being really young, but in all likelihood, I wanted to be a rock star.
Oh, wow. Who was your favorite band or?
I have such an eclectic taste. Like, there's country songs I like, and then there's Metallica songs I like, and everything in between. So nowadays I listen to 80s music.
Oh, yes, they're the best. I agree.
Yep.
Awesome. So growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school or hate school?
I loved school. I was an overachiever. I honestly, I skipped a couple grades.
Beautiful.
And so I was, but the sad thing about it, Payment, was part of the reason why I was an overachiever was because I wanted love and attention. So, in hindsight, that's greatly what drove it. But I loved learning, loved school, and I still do. I don't have very much time anymore, but I love learning. Like right now, I'm learning Spanish because I got guidance that I needed to learn Spanish because I'm going somewhere.
Where are you going?
I don't know yet. I haven't heard. I feel like it might be Guatemala.
Okay.
Guatemala, Belize, maybe down to Costa Rica.
Have you been there before?
I've been, when I was 13, we went to Costa Rica because my aunt and uncle lived there. And so we stopped in Guatemala, but I don't think I ever actually got my feet on the ground. So that doesn't really count. But yeah.
You will love Spanish. Spanish is fun, it's easy, and it's a very happy language because as soon as you hear it, want to make you, especially the music, just want to keep moving it, keep having good fun, puts a smile on your face as soon as you hear a Spanish song.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to when you were in school. What was your favorite subject?
English.
Oh,
My first love is writing,
okay.
and it always has been. So yeah, English was my absolute favorite, and I actually really did not like math.
Me neither.
I did not like math. And it's funny, one time my daughter, she'll be 24 in a couple of weeks, she said she loved math until letters got involved. And I just thought that was so darn funny. Because it was pretty ironic then, that I ended up being in the accounting, world for 30 years.
How funny is that? Yes.
Yeah.
And now, okay. So you said you didn't like math. Was it because of a teacher or because teachers can be very influential? Or is it because math numbers just didn't make any sense to you?
I think it was because that's interesting. I think it's because I had a battle going on between right and left brain my whole life. I could use both, but I really preferred the right side of the brain. And reading and it's going off into your imagination and dream worlds and fantasy books and all that sort of stuff. That was much more fun and entertaining than sitting down and trying to, do algebra or something.
Beautiful.
People will totally get off on that, but yeah, that was not my thing.
So
I like letters without numbers.
Oh, yes. What kind of student were you? Let's say I was in the same class as you and as in grade 10 or 11. What kind of student would you be? Would you be more like the studious type, the nerdy type, or more like the chat box, the life of the class, the party girl? What kind of student were you back in grade 10?
In grade 10, ooh, that was a tough year.
Grade 10, grade 11, that time.
Let's go. Yeah, 10 was difficult. So my family had moved again, and I was like in total rebellion. So then it was between grade 10 and 11 that I became a punk rocker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wish I had a picture handy. I'd show it to you. But at that point, I was very studious, but I was also extremely shy. At that point, I didn't like speaking up in class. So yeah, I was more on I was like, what's that, enigma wrapped in a mystery, or a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Like on the outside, it looked like I was very, outgoing and such, based on the way I looked, but on the inside, I was a complete wreck. So
would you say, you mentioned that you were shy. Would you say that writing and singing were a way for you to escape and overcome your shyness in a way? Or to express yourself in ways that you thought you would not be able to do it because of your shyness, but by writing it, whether it's an English class or by singing it and on the stage, whatever, you would be able to express yourself the way you thought you should be doing it.
There was no singing on the stage, singing in the shower.
Okay. Not even among friends?
Not
on a Friday, Saturday night? No,
because I was so shy and fearful of judgment and rejection. Man, I was messed up. But I think, like with the writing, like I wrote for the newspaper in my senior year. I was co-editor. And I loved writing research papers in school and essays. And I feel that is true. Like I was able to express via writing what I was too scared to express via verbalizing, in front of people.
Wow. Okay. What was your very first job?
I was very spoiled, and I didn't have to get a job during school. My very first job was actually, is this true? It was as a DJ spinning records in bars and clubs.
Wow, that was a fun job to have.
It
Absolutely.
it was now, and that was kind of like a side gig, but and then I ended up also getting a job in an office as an accounting. Is that no, wait. No, I was actually working as an admin for the DJ dude. I think his name was Eddie. Yeah, so I was working in his
Hi, Eddie.
office. Yeah, but my first real full-time job when I moved out of my house or out of my parents' house was as an accounting clerk of all things.
So by the
So
time you were working as a DJ, were you
yeah.
still shy, or were you able to overcome to some extent shyness?
I was still shy. Like I
Really?
didn't, I
Wow.
was, and like I would announce, what the song was or whatever, but then there really wasn't much talking or anything like that.
You went out there
Yeah,
to put the crowd in a good mood and get them going. And
no, I still am
okay.
shy. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting because I thought that, either you took the DJ job as a way to not only to have fun, a good time, but also to overcome your shyness, or maybe in some extent the DJ job helped you in some extent, overcome the shyness.
Well, there was alcohol involved, so yeah, I suppose.
Sure, that goes, of course, that helps. That's a shortcut. That's a life hack. Yes.
Yeah. And because I actually had gone to, I went to Syracuse University for a year. I was studying journalism, and I had such limited understandings of things at that time. Like I wanted to be a lawyer, but I thought that my only understanding of what a lawyer did was defending like criminals. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. So I didn't pursue that. And then when it came to journalism, I'm like, I'm too shy to go with a microphone and try to force people to talk to me. That was my understanding of journalists and such. So I'm like, well, I got away from that. I went to like this 3-month school to be a DJ or a newscaster or something. So yeah, it's interesting to look back and see how I had such limited understandings of life and of the world.
Absolutely. Wow. Interesting. Now let's move forward
Yes.
from the time you left school to now. How would you describe your path? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing once you get into one lane? It was like turns and twists, like a roller coaster with rapids in between and all that.
Yeah, it's a ladder.
Okay. It's much more fun that way.
It wasn't
Exciting.
fun though. It was not fun. It was
Yes. Okay.
turmoil.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was turmoil and yeah,
Bumpy.
very bumpy,
Mm.
major bumps. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your path from the time you left school.
Yeah. So when I was 19, I moved out of my parents' house and moved in with my boyfriend, who I'd only known for 3 weeks.
Oh,
But I
wow.
had enough of my parents and their rules, and I wanted freedom. And and actually, I have my 2 sons are from my first marriage, and we all change and evolve over time, and so we get along great now. He's been remarried for almost 20 years, but at that time, he had his emotional baggage and I had all of mine, and we didn't mesh well. So it was a very tumultuous relationship. He was verbally and emotionally abusive, which he admits now publicly, at least amongst family. And that was how long we were together, 8 years. And by then I had like no self-esteem, no self-confidence. And when you are in that state of being, that's what you attract in people just like that. And I attracted my second husband, who had, I would say, even more emotional baggage than my first husband. And that marriage was even worse. And I had my daughter by him. And yeah, so that was 16 years of hell, greatly. During that time, I really had gotten into some extreme Christianity as well, where I thought I had to stay in my marriage. And I finally realized God did not want me to stay in a marriage where I was being abused. It wasn't a good example for my children, because I was doing it for my kids. And finally, I'm like, holy crap, And when I finally got the courage to leave my second husband, and it was interesting. I guess I'm going here. I remember it so clearly. I went up to him and I said, I think we should get divorced because I'm not going to change and you're not going to change. And he said, okay. And that was it. And our daughter had just turned 6 at the time. And when I told her that her dad and I were getting divorced, however I put it, to a 6-year-old, she said to me, at least you two won't be fighting anymore.
Oh.
And that was my confirmation that I was doing the right thing for my kids. So that was 16 years. So that was 2004. Golly, that's a long time ago. And now I'm remarried. We have been together almost, our anniversary just under a month from now. 14 years we've been married.
Congratulations in advance.
Thank you. And 17 years together. And it was interesting, Payman. I was thinking about all of this yesterday because I've been exploring my past, just releasing more stuff, and going with the concept that we like attracts like, and I thought still 17 years ago, I was still pretty messed up, right? I'm like, but my husband was much stable and everything. I'm like, how the heck did we come together? Like that was so divinely orchestrated, because he certainly had his crap together a whole lot more than I did. So, yeah.
Wow, powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's a perfect segue. There is a saying that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what we tell ourselves inside our head all day long. So when you, Shannon, when you were at your lowest in the darkest of time, how did you change your story to change your life? Did you do it to help of friends, family, mentors, books, guides? Tell us the process you used to change your story to change your life.
Well, it's interesting. As I have been exploring myself, I've been, I've had, very much imposter syndrome with being an energy medicine practitioner because I've only been doing it for 4 years. And I see all these other people, I've been a psychic and a healer for 30 years. I'm like, oh, who am I, right? But in hindsight, I have been studying metaphysics and psychology and everything since I was 13 years old. I'm just a late bloomer, man.
Even the ones that have been doing it for 30 years, they were not born like that. They started on day one. So don't feel bad. Don't feel, I know it's easier said than done, but don't let that
I'm
affect
over
you.
it now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm over it now. I got over it. But it's just been a slow process of reading self-help books and studying different religions and doing all these different healing tapes and meditation tapes, all just a little bit at a time, studying quantum healing and quantum physics and all this stuff over, 30 years. That's just the way my soul contract was written. Apparently it was just, I'm going to do this really slow. And then 4.5 years ago, it was interesting when I found my mentor, Allison J.K. Well, that's such a long story, but I had found her because I had been having neck pain and I went on her free call and she chose me, my phone number to work with. Interestingly, we had been in the same graduating class in Boston, but we weren't friends. But when I started working with her, it was to help me with my bookkeeping company, grow that. And then I wanted to create a nonprofit for veterans. It had nothing to do with anything I'm doing now, or even, like I said, I didn't know how messed up I was, right? So, once I started working with her, then it's like, holy crap, I got a boatload of stuff. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes. So. Oh, yes.
Okay,
so you said through that person, you were able to change the story, to change your life. All right. Awesome. I was never religious, but I always believed in God. And since the start of the pandemic, I've had a spiritual awakening, and that has allowed me to have a much deeper understanding of life and things. Sorry, one of those is that we all go through life with our own share of, dark times, strategies, and difficulties and all that. Sure, at the time they hurt a lot, they're very painful, but they were meant to be there for us to grow and to get to where we meant to be. And
Yeah.
then they become our story, and that story becomes our gift, and that gift then becomes our responsibility to share it to the world. So now you looking back at those 16 years of hell that you mentioned,
Yeah.
sure, it was very painful during those 16 years, but now looking at them, what was a lesson for you to learn through those things? Because we're all here to learn lessons, looking at it from a spiritual eye. Because the previous version of me before my awakening, I was always asking the wrong questions, which was, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why? And this would never end good because it would create a vicious circle of negativity. Instead, I learned through my awakening the tremendous power of questions and asking the right question. And now I ask a different question. Instead of asking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? I ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is a lesson for me to learn through this? Even if it's something as painful as tragic as losing someone in a family to a disease, there's always a lesson to be learned from it. So when you look at those 16 years of hell, as you mentioned, what was the lesson for you to learn through those 16 years of hell?
Yeah. And I'll add to that. We didn't even talk about in detail all the crap that happened up until that point.
That could be an entire episode by itself. I know.
Which is a total other episode. So when you combine the first 20 years plus the second 20 years of my life, we all come to Earth with at least one of three core soul wounds. I'm not loved, I'm not safe, I'm not worthy. And I had all three.
Wow.
So for me, I feel the biggest one. I just did my human design chart in this thing. Are you familiar with human design?
I heard of it, yes.
Yeah, me too. I had only heard of it. And there's all these different segments about you. And all of mine had some aspect, in it, except the heart chakra one. And I know, like, I did this journey on a retreat a couple years ago. And my main core soul wound was not feeling loved. And that is the huge lesson. I mean, I with those 16 years in particular, was learning to love myself, not needing external validation from anybody. I am worthy of love. I am love. I am lovable. No matter what anyone else says, no matter how they treat me,
totally.
I'm always lovable. And that is the biggest lesson for me that I'm still learning. It's layers, but compared to where I was, 20 or 17 years ago, or even definitely back then, but even 4 years ago, I'm so far.
No, absolutely. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And as you mentioned yourself, that could be an entire episode just by itself. Oh yeah. And not just an episode, but a book.
I know it.
Awesome. Now, let's move forward. Tell us about the beautiful impact you're having in the world now. What is your business?
So the light vessel is the name of my business, but it's also who I am. I am a vessel of divine light, divine love. And so in all full description, so the modality that I do is called the vibrational upgrade system, created by my beautiful, wonderful mentor, Allison J.K.
Sorry, hold that thought for a moment. Just an idea a question came to mind. So you mentioned you're a vessel of light. Yeah. Are we all vessels of light to some extent, or only some of us can be that?
Everyone is a vessel of light. Or has the potential to be a vessel of light.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. You have to clear out a bunch of crap for it to be able to actually flow through and then emanate from you. Does that answer that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for, yes. Now, tell us more about your vessel of light.
So it's the vibrational upgrade system. I am a Grand Dragon Master. That is my official title. I have the highest certification. I'm actually the longest standing practitioner at this point.
What does that
And
mean, a Grand Dragon Master?
it is the title. It is
How long does it take to get there then?
Slightly indicative of different energies that I work with.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, so it's a combination of energy medicine, which the very basis is Reiki, but it's much beyond Reiki, and then applied mindfulness coaching. So not only does it help to clear out all the different blockages and traumas and emotional wounds and stuff we've carried forward as a soul and from our lineage, but we also, in this modality, help rewire your neural pathways in your brain. That, and that's a whole long explanation, but to bring about permanent behavioral change, permanent belief change, to completely transform your life. The more sessions I do, and the more of these other offerings that I do as Source continues to use me in different ways, like, it blows my mind every time. I'm surprised that my mind continues to get blown. It's like, why is my mind getting blown, right? But it is so powerful in being able to impact people in a positive way, and it makes me cry sometimes at the changes that people have, the experiences they have in these sessions I've been doing.
We're going to talk about that in a moment, because that's something I really want to dig deeper into that. Yeah. Tell us more about what exactly it is that you do. How do you help these people?
Yeah, so one of the ways to do it is an energy medicine session. So, but I mean, thankfully I can do it remotely. Energy is energy. I don't have to have you here to do energy work on you. So I have a huge, like, life-size bear that I use as a surrogate for people. Other people who do distant healing do it in different ways, but that's what I do because that feels most real to me. So I go through your body. Source is transferring beautiful divine healing energy through my hands to people. And then depending on how many sessions a person's had with me, then we actually have about 20-25 minutes where I talk about what new awarenesses they're having of behaviors and thoughts and such. And then I do what's called the vibrational upgrade clearing statement, where I'm intuitively tuning into people's emotional bodies and then bringing to their consciousness what wants to be released. And it's interesting because it sounds like, I remember when I first heard it, I'm like, really, how does this work? It's like, how can this possibly work? But wow, it's amazing. I was just telling someone yesterday, and this was 3 years ago. I was in a networking group, and I meet with people and chat with them, and I was doing 15-minute free sessions for them, just pretty much doing a quick run through their chakras. And they were having amazing transformations and experiences in those 15 minutes. So it brings me such joy, and I'm like excited. Like I ask every day, how else can I be used? How else can I serve people and faster and more instantaneous results? And Source keeps showing me, so it's fabulous.
Do you work mostly one-on-one with your clients? Is it more like a small group, big groups?
It's interesting. It's evolving. So I have done group events. It's been mostly one-on-one. It's changing. I just completed a 30-day program, and there were a few people in that. So we would do, I had different modules, whatever you want to call them. They weren't called that, and then each week we would do a group healing session. And I do, like, once a month, I have a group where our focus is doing healing for ourselves and then for the cosmos, and sending that light out to the cosmos. So yeah, it's a combination of everything. I know a bigger program with more people is coming, but the most impactful work seems, where I can really get to a person's individual chakras, of course, is one-on-ones. but that's changing. Yeah.
Who would you say is your ideal client avatar?
Someone who's ready to heal, number one. And I love working with women, and ideally, you know, I was going to say people who've had sexual trauma, but for women, that's virtually every woman has had some form of sexual trauma. When you look at the definition of trauma as sexual harassment as well, and like for girls, because this happened to me, you know, when I was little, and boys, you know, snap your bra or they pull your hair, and then your mom or your teacher, whomever, says, well, it's just because they like you. No, why is that acceptable? Right? Like, this is part of my mission, is to change the thinking around these behaviors. That is not acceptable. It is not acceptable to have my space invaded. And then so I grew up thinking it's okay for boys to abuse me.
Yeah.
So it's you know, when you expand the definition of trauma, it just comes out to women. But the thing is, it's not just women, it is men who have sexual trauma too. So it's really, it just comes down to who's ready to heal, who's really ready to heal and go through that process, because it's not easy and it's not fun.
Speaking of sexual trauma for men, can you tell us what can be a form of sexual trauma for a man?
So obviously the physical trauma, but I feel too, it's if men, let's say, who are more in touch with their feminine side and not necessarily gay, but they're just more nurturing and soft spoken, but then they get bullied for it.
Yes, okay.
You know, whether it's in the locker room and things that happen in the locker room to guys,
yes,
you know, those sorts of things, you know, and then you get into the military. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's even worse.
Or into prisons or things along those lines. You know, it doesn't have to just be physical stuff. It's the bullying and the emasculating and being called, you know, unkind names that I won't say.
Yeah, you mentioned the military. It would be interesting to do a research. I'm sure there must have been a lot of research on the extent of sexual, you know, traumas for both men and women in the military, and would be all quite shocked to hear that.
It's huge, and I have looked up the statistics. I'm not remembering them at the moment, but and it's interesting. A few years ago, when I had initially, in my business has gone like this with who am I focusing on?
That's normal. Everybody goes through that.
Yeah, like who can I help the most? And at one point, 3 years ago, I think, I was at helping military women with sexual trauma. Right. And I was talking to my oldest son about it, who was in the military. He was like offended. He's like, Mom, guys have sexual trauma in the military too.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, son, I hadn't even considered that. So then I was, all right, military people. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Now, let's talk about, so you've been doing this I love when you mentioned that you've been transforming and changing lives. So share with us an example of the most remarkable transformation you've seen from one of your clients so far.
This is interesting, because this was just a lady I did an intuitive reading for. It was she's a friend, so maybe normally they're 30. We might have, you know, talked for an hour.
When you say reading, are you talking about energy reading or tarot reading, or?
Yeah, it's energy reading. So in the intuitive readings, that's what I'm calling them, or that's what they're being called at the moment. I tune into the person's emotional body, and what comes through is things that were said to them, things, you know, feelings that they had when they were 4, and it just all comes out. It's being brought up to their consciousness to be released. And then I do a vibrational upgrade clearing statement for them to further that process. So I did that one time for this friend of mine. She had a huge throat chakra problem, like major blockages, and which is greatly about not being able to speak up for yourself. That's a big component of it. It's not the only thing. But a few days later, I checked in with her, and she said, she was still blown away by everything that had come up, through the reading. And she said, you know what, the other day, it was something along the lines of, she told her husband what she thought of his family or something along those lines. And they had been married a long time, because I was in her wedding, I don't know, like 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was. And I was blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so incredible that she just had that. But yeah, it's just been beautiful to see people feeling lighter and more confident, just from, and sometimes I get that payment as a response just from the free events that I've done. I do a healing thing. So it's, it just, yeah, like I said, it sometimes just brings me tears just on these little shifts that people have just from a 15 or 30-minute session or, hour healing event. It's amazing.
Wow. That is indeed amazing, because from my experience, I'm sure it will be the same. The two greatest rewards of business is, one, the transformation you see in the lives of people you help. Number two is the friendships you make in the process. And then the money is the icing on the cake. It's not the cake, it's the icing.
Yeah.
So that's powerful, because that's what we are in business. Because what is business? What is money? Money is not just a simple, exchange of transactional value. It's more like an impact. This is what it means, transformation. Love that. Now, let's talk about cause and impact. What would you say is a cause that you're very dearly passionate about?
Well, I know this will shock you, but it's sexual trauma.
No, I'm not shocked. I get it.
I was
No,
being
it's a big
facetious.
one. Yeah, absolutely.
It is that. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what is wonderful? I've got 3 young girls, and I was, my daughter and her fiance were over last weekend. And what I am seeing with that generation, 30 something, 20, 30, 35 age range, is they're the change makers. As far as society, they are so much more open-minded. And this is a generalization, because there's a whole other faction of them that aren't, but the ones that I see in my circle, they're so much more open-minded. Like my youngest son, his first fiance, who is the mom of his oldest daughter, is multiracial. So my granddaughter is multiracial, and now his current fiance is Cambodian. So,
Wow.
and it's they're so, I don't even, gosh, where was I going? Sexual trauma, cause sexual trauma. Yeah, so they're speaking out. They're like, I see so many things, I'm on Facebook because I have people all over the world that I'm friends with. There's so much talk about now about women saying no, and no, you can't touch me. No, you can't talk to me that way. You're not, and I'm not going to allow that for my daughter or for my son. So there's this huge change in consciousness happening around what it means to be a girl and a boy already with the younger generation. But part of my mission is to also reach out to the people, 35 plus, because they're still in power. They're still influential. And so it's starting to the cause being to change that societal conditioning, societal belief system around what's acceptable behavior between men and women and girls and boys.
Absolutely. Wow, that's powerful. I mean, we can do an entire, not just second episode, but more like a season, on all of these issues. There's so much we can talk about, but
Yeah.
let's, and we may do that in the future, but for now, let's start wrapping things up.
Yeah.
To finish off, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
On what?
On advices.
Oh, okay.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received so far?
Be myself, be authentic,
yes.
Just be who I am without fear of judgment.
Love that. And what's the worst piece of advice you've received so far other than get a job?
It's it is all of the different coaches and marketing specialists who are telling me not to market to trauma and instead to market to the impact of trauma. Don't say, did you have sexual trauma? Say, do you not like yourself? You know, and I'm like, I've gotten to the point, because I can't swear, but no, that is not it. I am talking to what happened to you, because what I know from writing that book is I did not understand that the things that were wrong with me were because of my sexual trauma. I didn't understand the impact. So screw it all. I'm talking to the impact. I'm talking to the people about sexual trauma or abuse or whatever else. I'm going to do my marketing that way.
Absolutely. I'm 100,000,000% with you on that, because
Thank you.
you are very welcome. You want to talk about something that happened to you that you're passionate about, not some filtered down vanilla version of it, because that would be authentic, you know?
It's not authentic, and it's playing into the squashing of talking about sexual trauma.
Exactly.
No, I'm not doing it.
Talk about it in a raw, authentic way, because that's what people face. That's what people have been facing, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you know what to do. Just like Nike says, just do it. You know, I would add an F in between, but you know what I mean, you know?
I know.
To make it more flavorful, if you know, more flavorful, you know? Absolutely. Now, imagine that you were blessed with a time machine and you can go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old Chanin. What's the number one piece of advice you would give to her, knowing all that you know now?
Wow, that's a tough one. 18-year-old Shannon, you are so powerful.
Oh, yes.
You are more powerful than you have any idea.
You're a goddess.
You are loved, and just take that to heart and act that way.
Yes. Love that. Now, I know you have your podcast, right?
Yes.
All right. Today, imagine that you have the most special person in your life, which is yourself. You're interviewing yourself. What is the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What's the first question that comes to your mind?
What's wrong with you?
And what's your answer? There you go. All right, next. No, seriously, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right. Now, my favorite question, the best for the last. What's the smallest thing you've done in your life that has had the greatest positive impact in both your life and business? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done. For me, has been starting my podcast. What about you, Chanin?
You know, it's really just in the past week, and it is what I just said to you that is going to change everything, is doing what my soul and my guidance says is the right thing to do, instead of questioning it and going to all these outside sources. What are they telling me I should do? And that's really just transpired in the past week, where I'm like, no, this is what I know is right, and I'm doing it. And
Beautiful.
That's going to change my business. That's going to have the greatest impact for me to be able to help people.
That's beautiful. Love that. And if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Facebook is a great place at the Light Vessel page, or go to my website and you can you send them? Yeah, I think you can reach me there. But
what is your website?
thelightVessel.com.
All right. I'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
Listen, Chanin, absolute pleasure talking to you. The past hour just flew by.
It did.
Loved conversation. Talking to you is so easy and fun to talk to. And I'm sure we've barely scratched the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more we can do. And we're probably going to do a part 2 in the next few weeks. But listen, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep, shining the world with your presence, your beautiful smile, your message, with everything you've got. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you, my friend. We're definitely going to be talking a lot. Take care. I salute you. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.